I have anything you want to say. Yeah, talk about it.
Good.
Yeah. Last minute. Oh, I told you.
That's Claire Sager.
What's that?
You told the secret.
Yes, I did. No, it's yeah, it's main thing to all.
Okay. Hi, how are you? I think Jackie's coming in first.
Yeah, that's what she's. Chilling.
Just going through my email because I haven't checked it since Sunday.
What's that?
I was just going through my email because I haven't checked it since Sunday. So I was like, oh, I should probably just food.
Also, yes. Actually, it's June 25th.
Should be relatively.
The 9th and the 25th.
Because my son is coming and Jason's zooming in.
Jason's on Zoom. Yeah, I assume Mark's coming. I haven't heard of him.
I haven't touched base with him.
I know Shelley's traveling.
Oh, perfect. Good, how are you?
On Zoom.
That's great. Like,
Ozzy and Kyle have a dentist appointment this afternoon, so I was gonna have to take it after you're off anyway.
perfect. Good.
I'll just leave it. I'll leave it lunchtime.
It is. Hi. Is there context for the room?
Yes, but also the microphones are on, so.
I was just in Bible study and the gal was like, the part that stood out to her was this person put a rock as like a reminder that God is her help, his help. And I don't know, for some reason feeling a little nervous about a meeting. And so as I'm walking in, I'm like, I'm gonna get rock. I forget what you were doing. I was like, oh, she
Oh,
told me.
get a rock. I almost started looking up.
Get
It's like,
a-
oh my gosh, is this meeting somewhere else?
Just to ground you. Yeah, 100%. I love that.
So
I'll have
it's my rock. Just my, I know, yeah, I know. I was like,
Yeah.
Jacqueline's gonna be like,
It's just a rock. She likes rocks. Yeah.
Mm.
Rock tells a story.
Take one, sir.
Actually, love it. That's a nice rock too. It is. I have a rock in a case. Because it's a hunk
sure.
of the KPG boundary. It's the iridium rich layer where that marks where the asteroid like that, the deposit. So yes, I have a hunk of rock that's 66 million years old that sits in a nice little plastic acrylic case on my shelf. And it's a hunk of the boundary.
At the
Marks
last
the
meeting.
passage of reptiles and mammals.
that's wild.
Yeah, it's like super cool stuff.
There you go.
About that meteor.
Because I figured
That, like,
if
it's
anybody's.
giant meteor in Boston.
Oh, okay. I saw something about a meteorite strike.
Oh, it hit?
Yeah, like the northeast.
We'll
Yeah.
come in here next time.
When did that? Like,
A couple days ago, I think.
I think it was this weekend.
I was grounded east.
Yeah, in Boston.
Yeah.
I think like a while ago. Maybe
Oh.
bubbled up because I have a friend who lives in Ohio.
No, there was like an explode, like a boom.
Yes. Oh, I don't think so. I think it's just what news and
I'll go back, yeah.
yeah, because interesting.
Or is Councilmember Postuma online?
No.
Will he be here? Oh, okay. So I have an excused absence for Shelley. Okay. Maybe that was Councilmember Postuma. That sure was.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. I don't think it
Hey, Mark.
is. Yeah, it's just fitted toward. Again. One minute. Just in case someone else is coming. I will call the special city council meeting to order at 1 p.m. Will you stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and we will do a roll call, even though I don't see it.
Here.
Here. Mayor Martin.
Present.
Councilmember Nazaro. Councilmember Clark.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Present. And I have received a request for Councilmember excuse me, to be excused from the meeting today.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Han from our meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have one action item, resolution F491, the Sterling Mormon House. Mr. Meese?
Mayor, before Mr. Meese actually starts off his staff presentation, can we just clarify for the record that this is kind of unprecedented, that we're having a special meeting and why this was brought for us? This isn't a special meeting that you brought. It was brought specifically by 4 council members. And I think that needs to get put in the record.
Okay.
Mayor, can we, I guess, just clarify which
Yes.
4 council
Oh.
members called this special meeting, please? Thank you.
Do you have that? Do you want to record that or do we just ask for?
I have the records
So-
of responses to the emails.
Okay.
That were Councilmember LeBar, Councilmember Nassaro, Councilmember Bealock, and Councilmember Long.
Thank you. Okay,
And just for confirmation, those are the 4 council members that called this special meeting.
Those were the 4 that by majority called for it. Mr. Reese said that there was there had been discussion around it and that we needed a majority of council members to call for it, and those were the 4 that made the majority.
yes,
And my understanding, and Mr. Capon can verify this, but per state statute, you need 4 council members to be able to constitute a special meeting like this.
correct.
And those are the 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. Mayor Martin, members of the city council, what you have in front of you this afternoon is resolution styled as resolution F 491. It's a resolution that the city commission actually saw for the first time last week at your May 26th city council meeting. It contains quite a bit of language relevant to a grant application from the Washington State Historical Society. It's a recurring grant program that they operate, the Heritage Capital Projects. The purpose of this grant application would be to provide significant improvements and rehabilitation to the Sterling Mormon House, a piece of property that the city owns and which I believe is also on the historical register. At your last meeting, this item was actually pulled from the city council meeting agenda as a result of some information that was discovered late in the process. Basically, what that came down to was some administrative concerns over whether the REIT fund, real estate excise tax, I think I've got that right, fund, had a sufficient fund balance to be able to support the direct cash match that would be required for this grant. So the grant has a total cash match of $523,000. Approximately 376 of the 523 is cash, and there's another 147,000 that the city could supply through in-kind contributions, labor, and other types of items. Since last Tuesday, when this item was pulled off the agenda, there has been an effort between several city council members and a meeting with a couple members of staff to discuss if there was an alternative, potentially funding the cash match for this program through private donation. And I'm sure that you will have more of that conversation here in a moment. And then relying on the REIT fund more for some type of a backup support in case there was an overrun from the current cost estimate for the project. So I'm going to leave that as the introduction of the resolution. I'll certainly take any questions from the council if you have them.
Mayor, I just have a couple of questions at this point and just, I guess, a bit of clarification. So prior to last council meeting, we had a finance meeting, which you attended, I attended, Councilman LeBar and Council Member Lazaro and Finance Director Rouse, excuse me. And we did discuss this at length. It was at least more than half of our meeting. And the discussion was there were REIT funds to do this, but it would deplete the REIT funds if we had to use this. And I think the consensus, and I'm not going to speak for Ms. LeBar, but that was just too much. The REIT funds are there for capital improvements. They're a nest egg. There are many other things that we need in the city, and we didn't feel it was appropriate. We pulled it, and we came to a consensus that we should pull it from the agenda. So again, I think that just needs to be reflected also.
I think, Councilman Bartels, I think that's a fair characterization of the meeting that we had, the Finance Committee meeting. And I know that just directly prior to that meeting, Mr. Rouse and I had significant amount, short time, but significant amount of conversation with regard to those issues that you're discussing right now. So, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So to clarify, since then, and maybe Councilmember Barthels didn't have a chance to look at the updated resolution, but we changed the approach, which you kind of addressed. So instead of expecting the cash match to be from REIT funds, it'll be primarily sourced from external funds. We're expecting to be able to get numerous grants for this project from the historical aspect. And then also the intention of the house is going to be for the police department to use it for like a domestic violence and sexual assault support crisis center, which there's tons of support within our community from like individual donors to organizations to, just larger grants. So we're not expecting there to be an issue in finding external funds to help support this. So the expectation and the way that this has been rewritten is that the REIT funds will be a last ditch effort after all other external funds have been exhausted, basically. So my expectation is it would be kind of if we had an emergency and we haven't had a grant come through and we needed to like fix a pipe that broke or something that was critical that needed to be addressed now, we would do that with REIT funds potentially. But any use of the REIT funds would have to come back before council so that we can, discuss how come we didn't have grant money or other sources funding for this? What's the need? Why is it a critical need right now? And so that we can have another discussion before we tap into those funds. And then there was also discussion on having a minimum balance in the REIT funds to address the concern of exhausting that funds. I'm not sure if we need that since we're going to be coming back to council. So that's just a current idea is what we can work in. Right now, this resolution is just to move forward with applying for the grant. If we get awarded the grant, we can circle back and hash out all those details of our funding sources and what we want to do to put restrictions and protections on our REIT funds and any other city budget items, including staff time. So that we're all on the same page and we all understand it, but that could be hashed out in the second resolution to accept it and make sure we're all on the same page.
So yeah, I think that's a very good characterization of the meeting that Finance Director Rouse and I sat in on Thursday after the meeting on Tuesday. Yeah.
Mr. Meese, can you provide for the council the timeline of this grant?
So yes, thank you, Mayor. So the reason that we are under sort of a deadline for this conversation today, given the adjusted program of activities, is because the grant application deadline is actually this Friday, June the 5th. So after removing it from the agenda last week, if there was going to be any action to the contrary, it needs to happen before Friday.
And is there an expected date to know whether this grant is received?
There is an expected date. I'm not sure what it is. Late September of this year.
Your Honor, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, just Councilmember Bivens.
well, with that timeline now, so we would then have, if we were to go forward with applying for this grant, we would potentially have until about September, giving us about 3 months to figure out where that extra funding is going to come from. And then once we've been awarded it, how long roughly does it take before, or what's the deadline to accept?
So then I believe the grant, actually the grant funding cycle would start in the summer of 2027. So you've got from September to basically July of next year, knowing that if you got the money in September, so you'd have October 1st to July to begin fundraising activities at that point. Or I guess there is nothing that would limit from fundraising beginning as soon as possible if the city wanted to move forward with the grant application.
And to add on to that, my understanding is we get the money, if we got awarded the grant, it would be available to us July 27, so next summer, but we don't have to take it immediately. So it's not like July 1st, we take it or leave it. We have it available for us. And we can use it basically up through the entire cycle of so it's a 2-year window for the grant. And so we have like basically that whole time to figure out matching funds or whatever we feel we need to comfortably start using that money. And then my understanding is that the folks that issue this grant often would like to make sure that we're successful. And so if we're not able to action on the grant in that window, there's a high likelihood it would be rolled over into the next cycle. So we could have potentially up to 4 years to use the money or to start using the money, I guess is really what I should say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's similar information to what I've understood was presented at the meeting, the secondary meeting. I do believe it's a reimbursement grant. So we have to put the money forward and then reimburse. Now, as to what our timing is, like you said, I mean, we can wait until we're ready to do the project, as long as we get the project done within the required deadlines of the grant program.
Other questions, Councilmember
Yeah,
Barfeld?
I probably have several questions, but I guess maybe just to back up and start. My understanding is this grant originated in the planning department. Did we find out who authorized the application development and what that cost has been so far?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Councilman Bartels. So I did have some conversations with staff. I don't, from the best I can determine, I don't think anybody actually said, write this grant. I think there was ongoing conversations around the opportunity, and I believe staff kind of took it on themselves a little bit to start preparing for that and doing that. So I wasn't able to find like one, you need to go start writing this grant. I think it was more of a joint, just a conversation that evolved into that. As far as how much staff time has been spent, the only answer I can give to that is the staff time spent in the last 9 days. And I don't think we've kept a lot of records about how much time was spent in that preparation. I would say in the last couple of weeks, the last week and a half between Mr. Rouse and myself, I would say total, counting the committee meeting and some of the other conversations, but total of James and my time, 5 hours. That sound about right? 6 hours? 6 or 7 hours?
Each?
Oh, I'd say total. James has done a whole lot more work on this than me. Yeah.
Another, I guess, follow-up question. Generally, when we see these things, we see actually the grant application, which I haven't yet to be seen. We actually get to read what the grant conditions, obligations are. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's been through legal review. If you look at the council packet, let's focus a little bit of time on the city council action request. It stipulates NA for all council committee representations. Legal review, no. Again, I haven't seen the grant application that has been developed. We don't know what the grant assurances are. Mr. Capon, have you reviewed grant assurances for this? Thank you. Has there been a financial impact statement? No. One of my understandings also is that this resolution, if it were to move forward, would be factored into the grant application. And nowhere, I'd love somebody to point out what this, again, victim crisis, I don't want to butcher what the intended use is, but please show me where that is in this resolution.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, I think it's very fair criticism, Councilman Bartel. So I would say, again, in the very short period of time that myself and Mr. Rouse have been here, one of the learning lessons that this project's been a bit of a learning lesson for us, and we've discussed it in department head meeting this morning, that we have restructured from the administrative standpoint how we are going to handle things that go to council committee. So going forward, and you'll receive a more detailed email about this, but going forward, we're actually going to have a rather comprehensive sign-off process internally before it even gets to the committee, which would include several of the items that you're talking about. So I can't make that explanation for today, But I can say in the future, we're going to have a better process for how this happens.
And I appreciate that. And I've had a conversation with the mayor yesterday. I'd like to bring forward a resolution that says any grant application is vetted prior to initiating any costs, and when I say costs, there's staff costs too. I mean, you guys said that you guys only use 7 hours total. That's still a cost. And then
Sure.
I'm not asking what the clerk used or the lawyer used or the public works director or any of the planning staff. There was extensive costs so far for this. And my frustration is it's not a vetted plan. And again, we are where we're at today. So let's focus on the discussion today of this as it's before us. The other issues I have are the safeguard is REAP funds, okay? The public works director is here. The parks director is here. They both sit in on the public works subcommittee. We talk about the use of REAP funds because REAP funds are used very commonly for capital improvement projects. I think your pickleball court is a beneficiary of REAP funds. The new roundabout is a beneficiary of REAP funds. To exhaust as a safeguard for this project are remaining REAP funds through 2027 would be a travesty. We're all elected here to be fiscally responsible. It does not make sense to me to potentially deplete our REAP funds for this. Moreover, I'd like to say that, again, it's not in this resolution, but apparently there are council members here that have already an intended purpose for the Sterling Norman House. Again, not disclosed, but it's unfortunate that Councilwoman Hahn isn't here because that's the industry she's in. And in talking to her, my understanding is they do service a number of different communities with her organization. And they generally need a room. They don't need a fully historic house remodeled to accommodate a room. And my understanding also is we're utilizing right now the Ren Pearson building and a room thereof. And I wish the chief was here because I thought that was something. And again, I'm looking at you. I don't know that you know
I'm
these
not taking it
answers. I
personally.
get that.
No.
But my point is we're utilizing space within the city right now for this purpose. So it's been my time on council when we're looking at a major capital cost, we have that planned out. We've talked in previous council meetings. Ms. Bealock, you've been in part of these too. We should probably start citing a new police station, a new fire station, probably combined. To deplete the REAP funds for this and say there's a little bit of the benefit to potentially the police department that's not even in here. Our ducks aren't in a row on this. We need to get our ducks on a row before we bring something like this forward and potentially jeopardize our entire REAP funds until through 2027. Another quick point, and then I'll let other folks talk. I don't want to be the only person talking here, but when we have finance committee, this is what finance committee focuses on, the finances. When this resolution was first brought before us, it was through 2027. It was let's use REAP funds through 2027. We haven't even looked at our budget for 2027 yet. So that's the first red flag I had as the chair of the finance committee. And now we're talking, well, let's use this as a backup for everything through 2027 still. It doesn't make financial sense. It just doesn't. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councilmember Bartels. Before you go again, Councilmember Labar or Councilmember Postuma, since you haven't had a chance to speak.
And Councilmember Nazaro also, will you electronically raise your hand if you would like to speak?
Councilmember Postuma.
Oh, I thought we were going to Nazaro. Okay.
No, go ahead.
I'll go. I feel like I'm new to the party. So, since I wasn't here all week and out of town and just zipped over here. So I have a couple questions. How did we come up with the 784,000 total project costs?
Great question, Councilman Postuma. My understanding is that we used an industry average per square foot for the building itself. And I believe that came out of the building code. Is that what we used? So the International Building Code provides an updated table of building, average building cost. And we used a square foot for that to develop the $700,000 number.
I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is, do we have a scope for the project? Did some people sit down and say, here's all the things we'd like in the Sterling Mormon house? And here's the amount of money that we would need to upgrade it, or I guess I don't see a scope of project. Like generally we know what the project is and what we're asking for. And so I just don't know what that is.
Good question. I'm going to ask Ms. Beeman to step to the microphone. I think she probably can give you better answers on that than I can.
I can tell you that the numbers involved in the estimate are very rough numbers. They were based on the square footage of a carriage house. We're hearkening back to a preservation plan that was developed 16 or 18 years ago with the use of grant funds, historic preservation grant funds. It was a plan developed by a historical architect, taking into consideration the age of the building and how do you adapt it for contemporary reuse while respecting the characteristics that make it historic. So there is a plan for an exterior carriage house to be constructed. So new construction in proximity to the old house, and then updating the old house respectfully in a way that makes the spaces available for contemporary use. It's mostly a conceptual plan at this point. That is accurate. The police chief has indicated he would like to move a couple of his detectives into that space, and that part of it could be a conference room. I know that there is a shortage of conference room space. Another one of the victim advocate services uses room at the utility building. Basically, they've moved into a small conference room that makes it no longer available to the utility building staff or departments. So there are services that are available throughout the community that would be gathered in the single building and adding some much needed conference room space to be used by the police department. So it's conceptual. We do not have architectural drawings. We've talked about how could the space be adapted and what might the costs be. Those are very rough numbers. And the resolution right now is simply asking for City Council's blessing to seek outside funding for up to a third of the project cost. It's not committing the city to anything. The state legislature would have to, first we would have to be successful in receiving a competitive grant. Approximately 40 grants are funded in each biennium, and there are probably going to be twice that many applicants. So this is we'll lay it out there and see if it finds favor with the State Review Committee. Contracting begins on July 1st of 2027, but until we can show where our match comes from, we can't enter into the contract. And we have realistically up to 18 months to enter into the contract with the Washington State Historical Society to get the go-ahead for making expenses that would be reimbursed by the grant.
Thank you, Ms. Beeman. Any other questions, Councilmember Poston?
Yeah, a couple more. So primarily we're at the police department is not officially requesting, but primarily the police department would be using the building.
That's my understanding. The police department and agencies involved with victim support services.
Right. Okay. And the Sterling Mormon house is about 1,000 square feet, correct?
1,200, including the upper floor.
Okay. That we would use as well.
That's the intention. Yes.
In addition to an expansion for restrooms and a ramp, ADA ramps and things like that, correct?
Yes.
So whenever I do a project, just because I've done large projects, I always break it down to that square footage. And so to me, it's a fairly expensive square footage. We're talking about in the $600 a square foot range. That's pretty high. So that is just a concern of mine. We do own the corner, correct? We own the property?
We own the property.
Okay.
It was purchased at the same time the police station was purchased from the funeral home.
Right.
There is no longer water or electricity to the property. So part of that cost that you're reading in there is site development costs.
Okay.
My understanding is that we would not be liable for the impact fees because there was once a residential structure that had water and sewer on that corner.
Hmm.
So we would pay install costs, and that is actually some of the stuff, some of the costs that would be rolled into the in-kind. I think we were going to investigate whether that could legally be done, as the city would use city crews to install the utilities and then not bill it directly to the project. I don't know if that's legal. That was something that was floated, but those match costs were included as an in-kind estimate.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Any other questions, Councilmember Stuma?
Yeah. This is just, it's, you don't even have to answer it, but I think when we're talking about, space for the police department and the fire department, long term, I would question whether the Sterling Mormon House is a good advantage to our long-term vision, maybe. The space seems like it could, we could do a little bit better with that corner. And the vision that I would see for that whole space, if we bought the house next to it, which is a large lot, and the house next to that one, we would own almost that entire block. That would be a long-term vision, but would probably set us up for like 100 years worth of success. Seems to me like the Sterling Mormon House is a little bit of a stopgap short term. And I guess as I've hung out with the safety committee, I would love to see us get into maybe a project that's more long-term based and gives us really actually very well suited and usable space for the police and fire department. So because I'm just all new, I'm just throwing it all out there. Because this is all new to me. So for me too, the Sterling Mormon House seems like kind of like sticking my thumb in the dike instead of thinking about a long-term plan that would be really great for the police department.
Yeah, so Councilman Postuma, with 10 days experience, I don't disagree with you. I don't know that this is the long-term solution for any kind of space or increased operational needs that the police department or fire department or whatever would have for that space. I do think this is more of a event-specific use as it relates to these particular types of public services. It might be able to be combined with something in the future, or if the city were to decide to do something different on those lots, then this might be space that if those services were provided some other way, that potentially we could rent or lease or do something else with. But I agree with you. It would seem like there would be this certainly is an opportunity to start or restart a conversation about capital planning as it relates to public safety.
Yeah.
Does Councilmember, I'm sorry, does Councilmember Nazaro have his hand raised? Councilmember LeVar, do you have any questions?
I don't really have so much questions as in just like to piggyback on your point. I could be incorrect, but I think when we spoke about it the other day, it sounds like we'd have to use this property, keep it in the city for 13 years. Is that correct, Sue? So, I mean, I think redoing it provides opportunity for the city in general. Like, obviously, there's a potentially use that can be extremely beneficial to our citizens. But beyond that, if at some point we decide as a city, like we no longer want to use this house, we want to sell it, we want to rent it out, it's redone and is that actual value. So.
Okay.
Can I ask, is the 13 years a grant requirement? Where did
I
you
believe
come
so,
up with 13 years?
Yeah, from the grant.
From the grant, it's a grant condition.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I don't know, because I haven't seen the grant, nor is our attorney, but I'm sorry, did you have further comments or questions?
Did Councilmember, sorry.
I'm sorry, I just have a clarifying question. The new grant would require us to leave it there for 13 years? Okay, okay.
Is Councilmember Nazaro? Okay. Okay. Did you have any other questions?
Oh, I mean, for a 1/3 match, it just doesn't seem like this is a good approach. I'm kind of without the other council members, what we've heard. This was discussed in at least the Public Safety Committee, which is why this is new to you, because you
Right,
weren't there
yeah.
that day. So we did discuss this, but we definitely I'm with you. I haven't seen the grant wording or any of the deliverables or that sort of stuff that's associated with the grant. It does seem like kind of a steep match that we would have to potentially pay when we don't have all of our details fleshed out. So that's my only real question though, is this a yearly grant application? Can we go after this next year after we've had it a little more ironed out? Or is this like every 2 years? How does this work?
My understanding is it's a legislative grant application, so you're going to be in a 2-year funding cycle.
Okay,
If it
so
doesn't
even if-
happen this year, you come back 2 years from now.
Okay, so if we miss the deadline, it gives us a little more time to really figure out what we're doing.
Yeah.
And debate whether or not this is the best use. Because yeah, it was definitely pitched as this was going to be primarily for a DV advocacy center and that sort of stuff. And it just seems like we need to have a little more details before we chew or take such a big bite.
Thank you. And just one more time, does Councilmember Nazaro have any comments? Okay.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
I was
great.
gonna say it just unmuted
Okay.
itself.
Yes, we can. Maybe you can turn him down a little, actually. Thank you, Shelley. Go ahead, Councilmember Nazaro.
Hey, my only thought is just to delineate that we are just applying for the grant and we're not committing to anything yet. I just don't want that point to get lost in the discussion.
Thank you. I know,
More comments.
Okay.
Questions.
okay.
This has been a topic for a number of years. It's been a topic at budget season, and you can see that the Sterling Mormon House has had some budget allocated over the years. But it has been, I'd say, almost a standing topic at least once a year at the Public Works Subcommittee. And one of the topics, and I've shared this with you also, that if this particular grant could correlate to a city cost of roughly $500,000, there could be a $600,000 swing with another potential idea. And I brought this up at finance also. What if we looked at potentially surplusing this with the mindset? And again, Sue, you've done a tremendous job. Obviously, and you know that I have tried to get this place rented over the years, and I've always come to you to get the key and show the house. I would love to have the Sterling Mormon House occupied with a commercial use, hands down. I think we all with some sort of use. But the question is could we surplus this with the requirements that would meet the Historic Commission's intent of maintaining the house and still having it be a functional piece of Cheney? The reason I ask this question and throw this concept out, it would be a significant swing from us owning it to getting it out to the private sector and actually getting it used. I've been on council now for 8 years, and I know that at least the last 5 years I've showed it 3 times. No takers yet. It is a daunting task to reconvert, as we know here, but I would at least throw this out for this council's discussion as a potential alternative to surplusing it with heavy conditions that it maintain the integrity of the historic nature, and B, it would be occupied in a timely fashion, maybe 2 years. I know even at one point, I think you said it would be a great community service project for some group organization to come in and restore it. Private money can go a lot further than public. So again, as another idea, as another alternative to this, again, just throwing that out and see what people think in terms, I mean, we surplus heavy equipment all the time that is basically not being used. And I didn't realize it was, has it been 16 years since we've owned the Sterling Mormon House since it moved down? And it originally moved down from what, fourth and fifth, fourth and F, right? So it has been relocated. Obviously the depot looks great, another historic building. could there be an option to maybe move the Sterling Mormon House as a hybrid option down near or closer to the depot, maybe create a historic district? I know Sue, you and I have talked before. I think it would be kind of cool going around town with kiosks and really sharing the story of Cheney with different historic places. Our council actually just, I think, made the recommendation for the Sigma New House on College. I think it was within the last 6 months to be historic and on the registry. So and Sue, I don't, forgive me, how many houses in Cheney are actually on the registry? 17. Okay. And that probably includes 1 or 2 up at Eastern too, right? Okay. Okay. So again, I think there's a happy solution here, but I don't personally think it's this grant, but what do folks think about, again, with the mindset of trying to get this Sterling Mormon House occupied of surplus? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Before you respond, I believe you had the question of, can you surplus the house? Do you know the answer to that?
There's certainly a public process for surplusing equipment, real estate, and other types of city assets. If there's not any deed restriction or other type of obligation from the way the property was conveyed, I don't know why you couldn't surplus it. But I mean, I don't think we've had any time to really research that.
Okay.
Something certainly we can do and come back with. That's the interest of the city council.
Just wanted to make sure we answered the question.
I think we do have, Mr. Kaban, we do have an ordinance that talks
Yeah,
about.
we generally do for surplusing either real or personal property. We do have an ordinance for that, whether the historic character of this changes that, that's.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Long.
I'd like to address a couple of the things that have been mentioned. First, I think that surplusing this building would be a huge loss to the city, from a historic preservation perspective and just, from like loss of opportunity for the community as a whole. So I just want to start with that. I believe it was the first house that was ever on our registry. And it has like a ton of really important significance. It's already on our property, city property. It's in the perfect location for the vision that Chief Oaks has for it. And to address, like that doesn't lock us into using that space forever. So if the police department managed to land a bigger space that matches their growth and everything, we could, easily move those folks out of the Sterling Mormon House into the future home, the next new home for the police department. And then we would have opportunities to do like what Councilmember LeVar said, like having already been restored, plumbing and electricity already in there. It'll make it much easier for us to, potentially move someone in, kind of like at the depot, we have a commercial use in there. So we could find something like that where it wouldn't be this huge burden for a commercial purpose to like locate in that space. Same thing with like if we wanted to use it for other city spaces. So like the city is growing, or we have our own different areas and are limited on space. So it might be nice to have opportunity to work with in the future on that front. And then regarding like the chief's vision, I know we heard a little bit about it, but Councilmember Hahn actually did get a tour of the building, and she mentioned that Lutheran Community Services exactly this need. And so this would give us a space for her to have someone from her office out here in Cheney. We'd move folks out of the utility building, bringing up space for our folks out in that building staff wise, and then have kind of a rotation of just always having someone available in Cheney in an office within this residence. I think that's a huge win for the community. It's a huge win for supporting survivors and folks in need. And I think it really centralizes it. The utility building is a little hard to get to if you have accessibility issues. Not like a bus takes you down there. It's not a sidewalk. So this would be much more central, closer to a bus stop, all the different things. One of the other visions that Chief has is creating soft interview rooms in that space to kind of help separate victims from like perpetrators for like interviewing, so that folks have a little bit more of an easier time during probably the hardest time of their life. So, I think that all of that's really extremely valuable. Moving the crisis response team out there too would be great. And then I want to address a couple of the things that Councilmember Barthels mentioned. So I know this went through the Finance Committee last week, and then my understanding is that they tried to meet this week before this meeting to kind of review the application, and that Mr. Bartels wasn't available to talk about it. So it's unfortunate timing because of the updated finances here. And then he's mentioned a couple times that about the REAP funds being depleted. Again, that was the old application, what we've revised it to for today. That's not the intention. If there's any REAP funds ever touched through this project, through the entirety of the project, it would all have council approval, and I would expect it to be very, very small amounts. It wouldn't be anywhere near depleting the funds, and we would have stopgaps and protections to protect that money, because we do know it is used for lots of different purposes that are very important throughout our community. So I'm not worried about that, and I just want to make sure that that's clear, that the REAP funds are not being depleted with this proposal. And then to back up kind of what Councilmember Nazaro mentioned, that this resolution is really just to approve applying for the grant. We're not committing to anything. It doesn't hurt us if we apply and we get it and we decide at that point not to take it. It doesn't hurt us if we apply and we accept it and then we don't use it because we don't have our funds organized in time to feel comfortable along the way, or something shifts in our desire of how we want to approach this project. So this itself is not directly committing us, locking anything in stone. This is just unlocking the opportunity for us to get this money, which is super competitive, as Sue mentioned. We have a really good opportunity to get it this time. We have Sue here, who is our historic expert in the community. And I think that really gives us a leg up on this specific chance. We could wait for, and do it in 2 years, but I feel like if we apply now and we get it, it'll help us also get more grants, because it'll show that there is support already for this project. And so again, my expectation, given the intention of this project, is that we shouldn't be using any dollars from the city, because we'll be able to make it up from external funding. I feel very confident in that. I will help find all that money personally. Sorry, one more thing. Also the idea of a historic district, my understanding is we already have one, and it is not where the depot is. It is in town. I don't know the exact streets boundaries, but I do know it exists already. So.
If I may, there's several things I'd like to rebut on that. First, I'd like to go back to, obviously, Mr. Capon has to review our surplus ordinance. But I guess what I was trying to stipulate is, if we sold, there was a comment made that, this would be a great loss to the community. And my question for Mr. Capon, as he looks into our surplus ordinance, whether there's a clean deed that we could surplus that, if we taken that one step further, and could we add stipulations to the sale with regard to it being occupied within 2 years and ensuring certain integral pieces, for example, the carriage house, would be implemented in that timely fashion. So those kind of stipulations with the sale, I guess that would be the question. I do want to circle back to what Ms. Long said about Councilwoman Hahn. She has in fact reviewed this. I've talked to Ms. Hahn as well, Councilmember Hahn, and I think there's a dreamer's vision right here of having a victim support services 24/7 or 40 hours a week. But the services that Ms. Hahn, as the executive director, offers to different communities is it's a fraction of a day. It's not full-time by any means. And again, I would point out that I'm not saying that those services aren't needed in our community, but I think there's a huge discrepancy of what we're talking about, what somebody's talking about versus what is reality in many communities. And it's major difference. There was discussion of, well, we're not getting hurt. Well, I mean, let me count how many staff are in here right now. I think their time is valuable. Their time costs money. And as we're doing these special meetings and creating and bringing all this staff in, we have to account for staff time. That's a resource. And that needs to factor into the economics. It really does. Taking an assurance of, oh, I can find the dollars. We just had a $15 million roughly aquatic center. And again, I don't necessarily want to put you on the spot. I'll ask you if you'd like to come up and talk about the fundraising, but I know from the public works, and you can certainly add to this, Mr. Curley, but we had the Spokane Parks Foundation brought on as a fundraising entity to help us raise money for the pool. And that was not something that just happened like that. It was a lot of work. We had an external organization to help an exact purpose. We obviously had an architect. Our ducks were in a row. This is, take my word for it. I'm going to find you $500,000, or don't worry about it. We'll just use REIT funds. That's where we're at, folks. Let's put things in perspective, and let's really pretend that we're here to be fiscally responsible. And again, I just want to reiterate, leveraging our REIT funds could be catastrophic. REIT funds are there, and we're using them for major infrastructure projects. We need to have those. And unfortunately, I mean, the pool is great. The aquatic center is great, but we did use roughly, Mr. Rouse, I think it was $1.5 million in REIT funds, which was getting built up over a long period of time. And generally speaking, on a year, I think REIT comes in around 225,000. Please correct me if that number is wrong. 250,000. Thank you. So I'll get off my soapbox, but again, this is haphazard. We're not prepared for this.
Thank you, Councilmember Bartels. Anyone who hasn't had a second chance who would like to speak? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion at this point.
I would move to table resolution F491.
Is there a second? Is there a different counter motion?
I'd motion to approve this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution F491. I think Councilmember Nazaro can hear us. So those in favor of approving resolution F491.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed.
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor, you get to vote. How fiscally responsible are you, Mayor?
That is the question. And that is not currently the question at hand. The question at hand is approving the grant application. I do think there is significant amount of work yet to be done in order to accept these funds, because that is not the question that we are being asked currently. We are being asked whether we can apply for them. I think that my vote is proceed with the application. So I would vote in favor of this resolution. I hope that every council member here has been heard very clearly that this application as it stands does not provide enough information to approve the grant should we receive it. And I hope that our staff is willing to consider these comments. I also hope that a team of people who are outside of the city can be brought together to make this grant application, and if we receive it, this project doable, so that those soft costs like an staff time could be minimized.
Mayor,
So
may I ask you just a quick question?
sure, I think, is that recorded? Okay. Yep.
May I ask you a quick question? I don't think you came in here thinking you were going to vote on this. Is that fair?
I I did have a conversation about that earlier.
Oh, you thought you were gonna vote on this?
I knew that was a possibility, yes.
And is it true to presume that you have reviewed the grant application? Because we haven't seen the grant application and the grant assurances, because even our city attorney hasn't.
I have not reviewed the grant assurances. No.
Okay, so you're approving something,
Yes.
just for clarification, on the record.
Yep.
You haven't seen the grant assurances.
No, sir.
Or the grant application, but yet you're pushing it forward.
I have not seen the grant assurances and I am approving the resolution to apply for the grant. Yes.
No further questions.
All right. With that, at 1:52, our special city council meeting is concluded. Thank you for your time.